when I came in, the app was okayish on the marketplace, and together with the team, we actually 10x all metrics. So this means number of downloads, engagement. So
hi, everyone. I would love to introduce you my guest today, who is Christoph Wagner, the CEO of Scanbot SDK, a company from Germany who is specialized in scanning, barcode scanning, document scanning, and also data extraction. And I believe that we will have a lot of things to learn today from Christoph, and welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to be here.
Before we begin, I would love to tell you that my reason with this podcast is to help other founders, CEOs, and executives to learn from others and to find out interesting stories that are truly helpful, because, you know, we discuss about many standard kind of topics, but when you can enter in a personalized discussion about a company, you can truly find those kind of study cases that can help you as an executive, you know, or as a CEO. And in your case, I think that we have something very interesting, because your role in Scanbot started later. So as far as I know, and please correct me if somewhere I go wrong, but you joined Scanbot 6 years before, in 2016. And so Scanbot already had a history. It was a very recognized company from 2011, where the vision was a little bit different, and it was also a rebrand afterwards, because before it was known as DO. I hope I spell it correctly.
Almost.
Almost. Tell me how it was DO.
Do. We called it Do, yeah.
Oh, this was not almost, it was a total miss, so Do. And it had a different kind of vision, a large platform vision. And the technology was great, because you received a lot of awards, including the App of the Year from Apple. And so the product was great, but there was a boogeyman, like many startups have during every kind of period during the first years, and that's called the market fit. And so the market fit was not exactly there when it comes to revenue generation. And the CEO of then, who also is the founder of Scanbot, and he's Frank Talon, who is known as an investor, right, in Germany, especially a serial entrepreneur. And then it became highlighted, especially in Shark Tank, the German version. And he was the CEO until you. And when they pivoted the Do to Scanbot in 2014, he went through a big transition, and he drove the company in the right direction, where it was a one-purpose app dedicated to our iOS and Android. It was a good move, in my opinion, because many times a company starts with a lot of things. We can do that, and then when it comes to market fit, things go sideways. So there were 2 years when the company went high slowly, and then he decided to resign and pursue other ventures, and then you came in. So I'm very curious about that moment. That's why I created this history, because you already knew probably about the company. You knew that there were many changes behind, so your role won't be so easy at the beginning. What was that moment, and why did you say yes when you accepted the role of CEO?
Okay, yeah, some questions. So let me start from the last question. So why did I decide to join? My main reason was that I wanted to learn. And you know, like as you said, Frank Thielen, and you're like, actually there are 3 guys who founded the company. Frank is like the public face for it, but there are also 2 others, Alex and Mark, and they're very experienced entrepreneurs. And my main goal was just to learn from them, and you know, like in an existing company, you know, like bring another vision to life. And I actually joined the company in mid of 2015 as head of operations, but it was already clear I would take over the company as a CEO if I would do a decent job. And yeah, this happened then quicker than expected. So since beginning of 2016, I'm the founder and CEO now of the company. And as you said before, like there was this big vision of a document management system which did not pan out. Then yeah, they actually focused on one part. So they released in the beginning of 2014, they released a scanning app for iOS and Android. And yeah, then I came in. When I came in, the app was okayish on the marketplace. And together with the team, we actually 10x all metrics. So this means number of downloads, engagement. So number of documents scanned. We never tracked number of pages because we had this privacy first approach. And like at our peak, we got 36 million documents scanned per year with using Scanbot for iOS or Android. So actually, you know, like the problem they had before, so the missing product market fit was no longer there. So this was actually great. But nonetheless, you know, like being in the App Store business and being a productivity app is quite a hard business. So I think, you know, of course, there are apps who earn amazing amounts of money on the App Store, but it's mainly either content apps or games. Of course, you know, like with games, like you can't compete with them, but you know, like for many other apps which are super successful on the App Store, the app is just the kind of a vehicle. It's not, you know, like the actual thing they sell. So let's say, for example, for Netflix, of course, they need an app so that they can distribute their content, but it's not what they're selling. They're selling their content. So, and what I saw, okay, really selling an app, selling a tool, which you know, like makes people's life a little bit better, but not, you know, like it's also not life changing, became harder and harder, and something, you know, like where I didn't see, okay, you know, like how can I really scale this so that it's actually worthy of a VC-backed company? And I think I don't need to tell you there are certain expectations if you are backed by venture capital companies.
Yes, and this is the topic I will want to pinpoint a little bit more. So what I understood is you were mentored at the beginning. For you, it was a challenge to take on this role. And for a while, you were with mentoring behind that. That was very cool. What was your contribution when you joined as a CEO? What was your vision to do with the company, where you wanted to bring it?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I just had to get my footing for a little bit. You know, like was an existing product, and you know, like and which was already, you know, like starting to be successful. So quite a lot of people, you know, like a bigger team, a lot of customers, and of course, you know, like with B2C customers, you also have, you know, like about 1% will contact you for support. You know, like, and this is in times when everything is okay with the app. So if there's a bug, if something is not working, there'll be even more. So like for the first 6 months, you know, like my only goal was to understand the company, really understand the product, understand the people, and then I started to develop my vision. And what I actually saw is that the technology we developed, the technology to actually make analog data digital and extract this data, could be way more valuable for other companies, or like for companies instead of private users. So because, you know, in your private life, from time to time, you have something to scan, but it's not like a daily habit. But for companies, you know, like there are quite a lot of industries which are still heavily paper bound, and for them, you know, like the technology we developed could offer way more value than for you as a private user.
Do you recall your first decision that was yours after this 6-month period that you said, okay, now I know things and this is my decision and I back it up?
There were quite a lot. I think one of the first was, you know, like I completely changed the total appearance on, you know, like how we marketed the app on the app stores. So you know, like the whole description. Then there was this whole topic of ASO. So basically, it's App Store optimization. It's the equivalent of, you know, what you know from as SEO on the web, and I completely changed it. And you know, like we went from 1,000 downloads per day per operating system to, like at the peak, to 15,000 downloads every day.
So it was a good decision.
Yeah, it turned out to be good. You know, like of course, like there were many iterations, and there was a lot of learning. And this was in general always my approach. You know, like until today, you know, like as a CEO, I never say I'm right. You know, like so, I believe in kind of this bias to action. So, you know, like we see it as an experiment. We try to validate our hypothesis, and like if it's working, we're doubling down. If not, yeah, we will come up with another idea, you know, like what we could try.
Every time when you try new approaches, you have that kind of period when you don't know if it will work or not. Do you recall what kept you up at night in those moments, in those months?
Of course, like changing, basically doing everything different from the previous leadership. Of course, like they were amazing. Like they actually let me do it, and I know, like I co-founded a company before, and of course it's not your child, but like it's very dear to your heart, and so it's very hard to like to let someone else step in, and then you like let him do like completely different things, things you might not agree with it, but they were always great. Like they were there if I wanted to ask them for feedback, for guidance, but like in the end they said, okay, your company, you do whatever you think is right. So what kept me up at night, of course, was sometimes like, was it right? And like, what was it the right decision? And the second question, and like it's still keeping me up until today, like, is it bold enough? Like, is it just like small change which will not move the needle in the end, or is it like really something which will create like long-lasting value, like for the company and for all its stakeholders?
It's interesting that you're mentioning bold as a word, because I wanted to ask, like, for example, you are in a domain, as you said, in productivity apps and also data extraction, data mining. So now today you have a lot of competition. And you wouldn't say yourself as a sexy company based on what you are doing, although it's very, very important. And so I'm curious, what are you doing to constantly innovate and have that boldness, even as a culture in your company? Because if you don't rely on your team to be bold, then everything just goes against self. So how do you approach this?
So basically two things. One thing is like we really listen to our customers, and like, and it's always easier said than done. Like you need to bring your customers to talk to you, and you're like in our case, and maybe we can talk a little bit about it later. Now we made the switch to people to B2B, and it's like large companies, it's DAX 30 companies, Fortune 500 companies, and as you can imagine, like many times. They have different things on their plate than to talk to a startup. Like it's always, yeah, talk to your customers, but many times, like your customers don't want to talk to you. Like especially for a product like ours, like if everything goes well, like they don't even notice that they have this product. Like, and then they don't. Like if you ask them, hey, can we talk? They said, no, everything is going well. Like that they're not really interested in, but we found ways to make it work, to get like a continuous feedback channel. So like this definitely helps like to actually build something which is valuable for companies. And I totally agree with you. Like it's not sexy, like, and it's like not on a big scale changing the world, but it's like for companies it's really valuable, and like for the end users it saves them so much time, so much tedious work from like manually transcribing stuff. So in the end, it's really important. Second part, like to keep innovating was, like establishing, or maybe like making sure that we have a culture of like where we're making mistakes is actually encouraged. Like of course, should not be stupid things, but like as long as we learn something, and like as long as we move, it's always okay to make mistakes. And I think this is something which I had as the CEO of the company. Like I had to constantly remind people about it. Like it's totally okay, and I would rather make mistakes than not do anything at all.
Can you share some tips about how did you solve these communication issues with the client? Because I so know about this, especially in Europe, although you serve globally, right, your app, but how did you solve this communication when a client just says, yeah, it's okay, and if they are not okay, they just leave without giving you any kind of feedback, and you don't know what happened? Did you, I'm sure that you had that trial and error kind of things in your company, but what did seem to work?
I think what worked was that we really said, okay, like it's me asking these questions. So like it worked way better than like if you would send someone from, I don't know, from your customer success team. And like then said, okay, like I'm the CEO of the company, I'm really interested, like I want to listen, I want to learn. And then we promised them, like in this call, it's just we listen to you, we learn, and like we don't try to upsell you, we don't try to like sell you anything, we don't try to persuade you to do anything. Like we are just listening. And then of course, like we we prepared it, so we made it a good experience for them, and like we also promised, like on any topics which came up which needed a follow-up, that we actually followed up, and like we religiously follow up. So if there are any things like that tell us, okay, this does not work, do you have any idea? And like many times you can't just like solve it on the spot in the call. But like we religiously make sure that we actually follow up and like present them with a solution, or at least like with an possible approach for a solution.
I would like to know even the little details. How did you approach? So who did you contact? It was you, it was your assistant, and what was the ask? The way ask?
Yeah, so it was me in person. So like for my personal address, like with my whole signature, where you have my private phone number and everything. So actually written by me. We contacted. So it depends. Like always, like we try to have one economic decision maker and one business decision maker. So in our case, like the internal champion, like the people who actually need to deal with our products are the developers. So we try to have like one technical guy or technical person there, and one like, I don't know, product owner, CTO, stuff like, who actually has the budget authority and made the decision.
Okay, so the takeaway would be that you had no kind of issue to contact whoever it's needed from the client's perspective to find out the truth, and you were very approachable as a CEO, or you are, and you constantly want to keep this contact. And if a CEO contacts you, of course, that you're more inclined to have that meeting. And you had Zoom with them or phone calls. What was the most effective way to extract the right type of information?
So like contacting was not a problem. Of course, like we had their contact details already. But like, of course, not everyone took us up on the offer, and sometimes like they had other priorities. So like it could take 1 or 2 months, like until the meeting actually happened. But I would say like 70% of people we contact like actually were like really had this call with me. And we did this as a Zoom call, and I asked them for permission to record it. So this enabled me to really focus like on the conversation, so without taking any notes. So I could later on review it, like make tasks out of it, like share it with other people in the company to like, for example, like certain parts were super interesting for the technical guys. So for our developers, so where they got like real feedback and like very direct, sometimes very harsh feedback. Okay, what worked and what like what was at least perceived as an obstacle or as like kind of suboptimal parts of like dealing with our product.
Okay, so this was the first part of the communication. I'm curious, how did you instill the right information in the company? Because, okay, now you gathered the right type of information. How do you spread this inside the company, not just to become something known, but also executed on?
Yeah, so basically, we distilled it in 2 parts. So one for kind of the revenue team, so sales and marketing guys, and on the other hand for technical team. And we basically tried to have a one-pager for each of these teams, like with all the learnings we had. And in the end, like it's like everything which comes out there. So all the results are incorporated in our growth and customer playbook. Okay.
And now when we go back to innovation, how do you encourage directly? Do you have some rituals inside the company that encourage innovation? Do you have some kind of practices you could share?
Yeah, so I think most important practice is like to hire more people than you actually need for the urgent tasks, so that you kind of like the people have time like to actually explore stuff, and then like actually encouraging people like to also do it, like, and if they did it, of course, like to kind of publicly reward them, like for example, at a company all hands, we showed what one team and the Android team, they played around with variables, which were based on the Android software, and they played around with variables, like really cool headset, where they integrated our product, and like which allowed you, like with a voice command, for example, to scan a barcode, like which which could be really cool in an environment like where you're working with your hands when they're dirty, so when you don't want to touch anything. So you're like highlighting something like this for the whole company at such meetings, talking to people, like asking them. So like a constant question, like whenever I have one-to-one with people, is what did you learn? So like it's almost like a mantra, and I think maybe people are almost being fed up being asked this all the time. Like, but for me, it's the most important thing. Like to really encourage everyone to learn.
So that you have a constant growth even during COVID and afterwards. You're hiring people, so you are on the right track. I wonder if you know what is your strong point today, or what is your trump card you have as a company that keeps now growing and growing slowly but boldly.
I think it's the product. So like we built something which companies really need, and like for a big part of the product. So if you really care about quality, if you want to have the best product on the market, there's no way around it. And so we invested quite heavily in making the product really easy also for developers. So like if you're a little bit experienced developers, you can integrate the product very easily, like in your test environment, and you will get results under a week. Like, and you can already experience, okay, is this something which would work for me? Is this something which would add value to this company? And I think that this has been really, really important for our success. So that the product, like, it's reliable, it's fast, and like it just does what you would expect it to do. And you're like, if you've been dealing with software and if you've been developing software, that's not always the case for products you will find on the market.
Is this what keeps you excited? Why I'm asking, because you have a co-founder and founder expertise previously, and now you have a long journey, already 6 years with the company as a CEO, and you might think that, okay, it's time to start a new company or do something else. But you are here and you're very excited about talking about the company. I can see the excitement you have. And is this related to the product or also something else?
I think it's related to the product and to the scale. So like now about 20 million people every month get touched by our product. And like I've worked for startups before, and I co-founded my own company before, and that you have an impact on so many lives, it's actually quite rare for a startup. Like for many startups, yeah, you impact 100,000 people, which is cool, but everyone would rather have like a larger scale. And the thing which keeps me here is that I did not stop learning. So like for my whole life, it was always the case. Like if I had a feeling, okay, like I'm kind of at the end of the road, there, like it's really hard to learn, or like learning is just incremental and the rest is work. Then like I decided, okay, now it's time for me to do something different. So far here at this company, I did not reach the point. Like we have been growing quite a lot. Like in terms of revenue, in terms of people. Last year we doubled the amount of people who actually work for this company. And of course, like this comes with its own challenges. This changes my role, and this is what keeps it interesting for me.
What do you think is that point that you will reach when you will say, okay, that's enough, I did my role? Do you have such a vision in your mind?
Of course, like I'm working on the fact, like to make myself replaceable. So like when you're a small company, it's super dependent on you. Like and we were a small team. Like when we were like 14 people, like I knew what everyone was doing. I knew every customer. I talked to most of our customers myself, and like I was the customer success manager basically. So I knew about all their problems, and this like the bigger you get, the less you can do that. And like my vision is like to make myself replaceable, like for all the operational parts, and like only be like the person who thinks about like the long-term strategic vision, about like what will we need to do to be continuously successful. And of course, like if you grow fast, your role as a CEO changes, and you need to keep up. And like, yeah, I'm investing quite heavily in keeping up, being coached as a CEO, reflecting, reading shit tons of books, listening to podcasts and stuff. But of course, there might be a point in time, and I hope it's not too soon. Like, yeah, but where someone else might be more qualified to do this job, and then like, I'm not married to this. So like if I believe, or like if the investors would believe, like there's someone who can do this better, I would totally accept that. Like I'm fighting to be the right person for the job, and and keep up with like how the role needs to evolve and evolves. Yeah, but like if it would be better for the company that someone else does it, like I would be totally up for that.
I can see the curiosity, the self-learner approach, the student for life approach from you, and that's great. I would love to touch now the communication with all the stakeholders, because this is an issue you already mentioned. Now you are keeping all the company's lines in from all of the direction, and you need to keep that balance also with the investors, everyone to be happy, not just the clients and the employees, but also the investors. How do you manage this kind of different type of communication in a way that everything stays solid and in balance?
That's a very good question. So I think like with customers, we talked about it. With employees, I think like it's really important like to do it very frequent, to do it kind of reliable. So like it's not just like on the spot, or if something bad or something good happens, like it's just reliable. So for example, we have this all hands meeting where we really talk about like what could be of interest for like everyone in the company without going into too much details. With investors, I'm not sure if I'm actually doing such a good job here. There is a monthly reporting, and and of course, like from time to time, we have calls, we have board meetings like that. But to be honest, I focused more on the team, focused more on the customers than actually on the investors.
Okay. And now an interesting question, because I saw that you went through a lot of things with Scanbot, including the history, and you had your own because you had an acquisition in 2020. So it was during COVID. I'm not sure how related it is to the time, you will tell me. So this is a big jump. So you could have different ways to go. Maybe we will raise a Series B, or we acquire other companies, but we were acquired. So what was the decision behind why you took this road, and how did you handle the change? Because it was a big change.
Okay, then let's go back a little bit in history. So when I took over the company, so it actually had this app. So we made this app more successful. But then I like as discussed before, I saw, okay, maybe like that's not like what will lead you to a huge valuation, to have a real big impact on the ecosystem. So what I saw is that this technology would be super valuable for other companies, for B2B companies. So in 2017, and this is always a nice bit of history. This was against the express advice of my board. I decided, hey, let's launch MLP, so minimum lovable product of a B2B product, which we called the Scanbot SDK, so Scanbot Software Developer Kit. And yeah, we launched this in the beginning of 2017, and like it was not a minimum viable product because it was a little bit better, and because I believe like to really evaluate if your product would have a chance at the marketplace, like it cannot be super bare bones, like it needs to be lovable without having the full feature set. We released this, and it very quickly caught on. So companies actually tested it. They wanted to license it. We licensed it as a SaaS software, so it's an annual subscription, and people actually came back and like wanted to license it for another period. So everything's great, but we were still a very small team. We were something about 20 people at this point in time. So on the one hand, we had the successful B2C app with, and it had like 12 million downloads at this point in time, 2 million monthly active users. And on the other hand, we had the fast growing B2B business. And like the products developed like in totally different directions. Like something which was valuable for B2C users, for private users, was not so important for companies, and vice versa. So like it was a constant struggle, like to serve both sides or both parts of this business. And so I came to the conclusion, okay, one of these products need to go. We are still too small, and like then you have this focus issue again, like where you're doing a good job on both products instead of an excellent job at just one product. And yeah, so I discussed it with my leadership team, with my CTO, with my CMO, with my CTO, CSO, CMO, and yeah, we came to the conclusion, okay, we will sell the app. So I convinced the board, and like as I talked before, very hard for them because they actually like launched this product, and now I'm coming and telling them we need to sell this off. We need to focus on something different. But everyone agreed, and so at the end of 2019, we actually sold the app to a company called Maple Media. So we just sold the app, and kind of like with the user base. But we did not sell any IP, so we kept the name Scanbot, the brand name trademark Scanbot, stuff like this. And like this basically enabled us overnight to like double our capacity, double our developer capacity, double our marketing capacity, double also like my leadership capacity, which was not like divided between two products, but now like is solely focused on Scanbot SDK, and it turned out to be a really, really good decision for the company.
Okay, so it seems that the company went through ups and downs, but all the time you were very resilient to take the right decision and just never give up. So I'm curious about your years here. What would be one or maybe more lessons you've learned as a CEO that sticks to you every day, that I won't repeat this never again, and something that could help others as well in similar roles as yours?
Yeah, I think like this mentality of never giving up, like always finding solutions for problems, and kind of like believing in your team, believing in yourself. And like for me, really a mantra is like the customer is right. And so like it always pays off, like to get feedback often and get it early. Of course, like customers don't always know what they should want. But like when you have the idea, you like try to build like basically a prototype with like with very minimal effort, like to demonstrate, okay, this is what like what we could offer, would this be of value to you, and then really get the feedback from the market super early, like, and don't build for very long times, like, and then find out, okay, there's actually no product market fit, and in the end, like no one wants it. And I think one very important lesson is like people want it when they actually pay for it. Like there's a big difference. Like if I give you something for free, you would maybe take it, you would maybe even use it. But like you can really see if it has some value for it if people start paying for it. And so like I would start monetization way earlier than most companies do. I don't believe in this whole, okay, like you build it, you hand it out for free, and then later on you will figure out a monetization strategy. So of course, like it can work for some types of companies, and it did work for them, like Facebook, for example. But I would say that's rather the exception and not the norm.
What's the biggest risk you would say today you have as a company in the market?
Biggest risk is probably like really fucking up. So like it's a software product, and it's really hard to continuously keep up the quality. Like there's a lot of risk out there. So like we have a lot of quality assurance people, and trying to keep it safe, safeguarding the information. Like it's actually a piece of software these big companies actually include in their apps. So like they really need to trust the code, and we really need to be a responsible partner. Like, and if, of course, like if a big accident or data breach would happen, this would definitely like hurt our reputation quite a lot.
I think we learned a lot of things. This was a very energetical discussion. So thank you for all the information you shared with us. My last question would be, maybe it's expected, but I'm also curious, what's next for Scanbot?
That's a very good question. So I think what we are trying to continue to do is like build something which other companies value, which we can sell, make our existing customers happy, and find new ones. And like we continue down the road of actually making data, analog data, digital. And like many times when you talk about data, people envision text. But analog data could be so much more. Like it could be shapes, it could be colors, it could be states. Like like for example, is something open? Is it closed? Is it damaged? Is it undamaged? Like there's so much analog information which needs to be digitized so that computers can work with it. So I think like we are just at the beginning of the age of machine vision, computer vision, like combined with machine learning. I think there are very, very exciting things to come in the future.
This is great. So thank you for this discussion, and I wish you the best of luck with Scanbot, and I want to hear a lot of success stories from now on in the future. Thank you for accepting the invitation, and have a great day.
Thanks so much for the interview. Really great questions. Thank you.